Welcome to another episode of In My Opinion. My name is John.
My name is Lester.
And
Kevin.
And Kevin. So
you've been chatting with off cam. It's really nice to meet you. Finally.
Yes, Kevin, for all the people who don't know, he has another podcast as well, Rebound with Resilience. And as the name suggests, he talks a little bit more about mental health
and basketball.
and basketball. Actually, more about basketball if you think about it. And so basically, we actually have him on today to talk about the topic that you see in the title right now, mental health in schools. But before we go into that, let's do our plugs now.
Yes, of course.
We are streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/overthinkSG. If you're not here, join us. It's bussin'. Get to know us a little bit more. It's fun. See,
It's very fun.
we definitely didn't pay him to say that.
Yeah.
And then also follow us on IMO at IMO on Instagram
Yes.
at IMO.pod and our Telegram channel at t.me/overthinkSG to
Yes.
get to know when we go live, when videos come out, get to watch the videos, the highlight videos that I make.
Yeah,
I spend a lot of time on them.
Contribute in our polls. You can chit chat with us, and then we will respond. And by we, I mean 90% Lester, 10% me.
I hardly respond these days. I'm so sorry. We'll get better. But yes, let's get into today's topic. So we have a very energetic start, but honestly, this topic is going to be very, very slow and mellow for the most part. It's a very serious topic, and the reason why Kevin and I decided to do it at the time when we discussed, it was around the time of the RV incident. We don't want to talk about the RV incident too much today because we recognize that there are some things in content is like don't need to do one lah.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things lah. So we decided not to do it, but we still think that mental health in schools is an important topic to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
And even if that incident didn't happen, it's still a topic that we will talk about today. So why don't we start off with our own experiences? So
Yeah,
Kevin, since you're the guest, why don't you start? How's your I guess emotional journey or your mental health journey when you were in school specifically?
Yeah, I just keep it brief lah.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to take up too much. I want to hear from you as well. But I think Rebound and Resilience started as an extension of my struggle. It was because when I was in primary school, secondary school, very typical kid, right? Very perfect inverted commas kid. They were in studies, they were in sports. My parents were both teachers.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I had a lot of support. But I think that changed during my A levels.
Okay.
That was a couple of months before my A's where I really felt the pressure.
Yeah.
I think you all know that you're conditioned to think that there's no A levels, there's no grades, there's no life. Right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all you know at that point of time.
Yes, I agree.
And I think that led eventually to anxiety and eventually handing up blank papers for my math A levels. Yeah.
Ooh.
So paper 1 and paper 2, 6 hours in total, both papers had a mental block. Best way to describe it, like oxygen being cut off. You know you have practiced the question so many times,
Yeah.
but you just cannot do it because it's just cut off. So I think I had no coping mechanism because previously I never faced issues with my mental health. In fact, ironically, right, I always judge a person and goes to the counselor subconsciously. It's like, what's wrong with just studies? Why you need to go? There's one guy I remember in secondary school. He punched the wall and he broke his knuckle. Yeah, and we laughed at him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what everyone did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the age you don't have perception, and like we were talking about your brain's not fully
Yeah.
developed. So anyways, I think it was now of course grades mean nothing to us. I mean, to Alistair maybe he's still in school, but for me it means nothing. But back then it was everything.
Yes.
So it was very devastating. Like I really struggled with depression. Then eventually transitioned into mania, which is lesser known. It's basically a state where you go in this extreme high. And then I did many extreme things. So I think coming out of that, I was very fortunate that certain factors helped me out, which I guess we can discuss later. But I took that kind of pain and turned it into a drive. So that's why I wanted to go back to schools to talk about mental health, talk about resilience. And now I'm doing it full time through Rebound.
Nice.
Yeah, doing it full time is crazy. I think that's like what I wanted to do with this YouTube channel as well. So it's cool that you're actually going down to schools and talk about it. Wait, you handle in blank papers?
Yeah,
Like just
I just
didn't say anything.
copied the question and I handed it up.
Oh wow. Okay, how did
Yeah.
that? So how was that after that?
It was weird because like I told you, it was an experience you have not encountered before. And this is a major exam.
Yeah.
Like it's like all my dreams and you know when you're young growing up, right? Your self-identity, your self-worth is very predicated on variables, right?
Yes,
What
yes.
other people think of you, achievements, grades. So that's a good thing if it's doing well. But
Yes.
it's a very dangerous thing to be there because like that can change anytime. Variables can vary.
Yeah.
So when that varied at that point of time, my self-esteem just crumbled. My identity just crumbled. And I think I really struggled through the rest of my papers. I wanted to give up already. But I want to retake my A's. But with support from my family, a bit of medication,
Yeah.
I struggled through the rest of my papers. I even had to go to a different room
Just to take
to take it because I couldn't. I was too hypersensitive. So they brought me to a different room. It's just me and the fan. I remember, and then I had to keep telling the invigilator to switch off the fan because it distracted me, and then it'll get too hot.
okay.
Now then switch it on again. So it was that. I was pain. A levels was just painful. And I think you all know some context for viewers, right? A levels are 20 over papers in total.
It's a crazy time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was your own journey. John, how about your journey?
Okay, honestly, right, if you ask me my JC journey, right, I was all the way up to university. My education has, I would say for primary school and secondary school, I had a similar experience. I had a lot of support. I did really well. And because of a result, as a result of doing really well, right, you always receive a lot of positive reinforcement. Right, and like people be like, oh no, you're doing great, and then the encouragement always comes your way. Not much adversity, you don't feel, and so much so that like when I went into JC, I was like in my top class, but when I left JC, it was like a terrible experience. But for me during JC, I was very, very glad because I found an outlet that did not cause me to sort of like have this break during the education aspect of it. But it resulted in the outlet of my CCA being a escape mechanism in that sense. So it became like because I'm a little bit of an escapist at heart, right? When it came to A levels, right, the stress was great, but what I did was instead of doing that, I seemed to deflect and dedicate my attention elsewhere. So like what happened was that I didn't know who to turn to when I got really nervous. So instead of turning to anyone or turning to my studies or trying to focus, right,
just do CCA.
I go and do other things.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So because I'm an escapist at heart, so this is what happened in JC. So I would say that like even though my A levels I didn't do well, right, it didn't hit me as hard because I had my escape mechanism. But the first time where I felt a really, really serious educational sort of like breaking point, if you will, will be during uni. Like when one of those times whereby I was studying for my finals and everything, and it was like the closest I've ever gotten to like a mental breakdown when it comes to studying. I still remember the incident because I was in my hall room and I was mugging really hard for something that I firstly was not motivated to do. No escape outlet, and because everyone was like studying for exams, so CCA also wasn't really a thing, and expectations that were riding on me lah, right? And I remember for the first time in my life, right, I told my then roommate, like, hey, can we go out and have like a smoke break? Because he's a smoker. And like I just asked him, can I have one too? And then he was like saying that this is the first time he looked at me like I look a little bit funny. So he was just like, yeah, sure, let's like go out for a bit of a break. And then I remember like my hand like shaking and holding and everything. And then I was holding the stick, and then I like took like 2 puffs, and then after that I just continued to like that with him. Then after he was like he was legitimately worried, but after everything that he had one day he like brought it up to me again. Then I was like, I didn't even realize that I was like that at that point of time. Yeah, I was like, basically it was the most anxious I've ever been in my life, I would say, or in recent memory. And that was like the closest to a mental breaking point in terms of education I've ever or rather I can remember.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's like the most like significant, especially because my friend reminded me of it. So I was quite lucky because my roommate was a nice guy, he took care of me lah. But like basically that was like the closest I've gotten. So like I can understand the pain of it.
Yeah. I think were you was it about studies? Was it about grades?
It was about the exam basically.
Okay.
The exam, the upcoming exam.
And so for yours, it's also kind of about the grades and the results.
A-levels. I think the stress, I think if we talk about mental health, it's a combination psychosomatic disorder, right? So it's both psychology and physiology. I think the issue is that I stopped exercising. That was one mistake I made.
Okay.
Right. And the endorphins really help, right? But I stopped exercising. So I just 14 hours a day straight, 10 to 12 studying.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely played a part. But also the psychology definitely played a part. This perfectionist mentality where it's all or nothing, black or white. Yeah. That's a very dangerous pattern of thinking. Because, if you don't do that, that's it.
Exactly. You don't think that there's any other version. Yeah.
So that's difficult.
I agree.
That was my psychology.
For me, it's a bit different. So like until in uni, I agree. I look a lot of the grades because I'm a scholar. So when I go in, I already had the expectation. I perceived that people had an expectation on me to perform and to do well. And honestly, throughout my entire secondary school and JC life, I viewed myself more as like the underdog, as the one that like no one really believed in, and I liked it. I liked feeling like an underdog, and I liked feeling like I have to prove people wrong. So, and I was a sports person as well, and all of you are sports people.
Frisbee.
Yeah, so I was in water polo and I was in frisbee. So those like I guess kind of stilled me in that sense with the results. But even then, right, like in JC, I would say because I suffer from anxiety, most people will know. Those people who have watched the podcast will know that I would say the roots of it came from JC.
Okay.
And it's not really the results. I think the results for some reason came quite naturally for me. Like I was going through like a semi like relationship problem at the time, and I still managed to do very well for A-levels because I think I somehow can compartmentalize quite well.
Yeah.
It's just the social part that made me very anxious. So I think like I always say this, but like JC was the first time that I actually talked to girls like properly, right? And at the time I had a girlfriend, so it's not about like dating or anything. It's more of I keep thinking that I was creepy. Like, I keep thinking that I was creeping people out and I was like overbearing.
I mean, you are lah, but I don't know.
It could be overthinking as well.
Yeah.
There's one aspect of social anxiety where you go back and you think about your conversations the
Yeah.
whole day.
Exactly. So I did that a lot. I went back and think, I'm like, wow, shit, that was such a fucking creepy thing to say.
I shouldn't have said
I
that.
shouldn't have said that. Yeah, I keep thinking about this sort of thing. And that's where it wasn't bad enough to affect my grades nor my social life or my anything to be honest. But it was bad enough that like I think it kind of sowed the seed in it because I overthink a lot. And that's why the channel names overthink. But that's my I guess educational journey, and that kind of goes into coping strategies. So for me, my coping strategy was friends, easily, because for me like I have a bunch of very close friends that I'll just talk to all the time. I'll be like, wow, shit, I'm going through a tough day today. Here's all my problems.
Interesting.
And it's more of an emotional disclosure kind of thing. That's why I guess I go to friends automatically.
Yeah.
But for you guys, what are your coping mechanisms?
Prior to the event, right?
Yeah.
I think it was sport and also religion possibly as well.
Oh,
Prayer.
okay.
I think I grew up with a very strong Christian influence. So prayer gave me that solace.
Right.
You know, but I think interestingly, like when that happened, depression happened, it's almost like a disease, a virus that takes over your mind. So everything you perceive, it's negative.
Yes.
You can't even control your own thoughts. I remember the first time I had a suicidal thought entered my mind, right? There were two things that really scared me. Number one is that I had the thought, I was capable of that thought. And number two is that I had no control over it.
Yeah.
The second thing scared me more. And what also scared me was that I started to think that because of my sins, that's why this is happening. And now my strongest coping mechanism became like a double-edged sword. So it was very difficult. But I think what really helped me overcome that period was three factors. First thing was, I do believe professional help and medication did help. I was fortunate enough, my parents were open
Yes.
to that. The second factor was very close support from one or two close friends
Yes.
and family. My parents didn't fully understand, but they empathized and they held that space long enough for me, right? Until I could think for myself.
Yes.
Like sometimes people come to you, you immediately want to try to fix them. Like all you need is just to hold that space for them. I think my parents did that for me. And then after that, right, the last thing that really helped was a fundamental mindset shift that I made. I completely let go of my previous identity around grades and just created a new one.
Okay. I mean, for most people, I think you'll be friends and parents as well. But for you, what was your coping
Actually,
mechanism?
funnily enough, I feel that like now that I do a deep dive and I understand myself a lot better, right? My coping mechanism has always been escapism. It's always been escape. So like, for example, when I hit a certain roadblock or whatever, right, I always find ways to escape. And because I'm a very social person, right, my friends became a form of escapism when that is actually extremely unhealthy. Because if you escape to your friends but you don't let them support you, right, all you do is like, for example, if they try to show concern, I will brush it off. I'll be like, oh no, it's okay, I will focus next time lah, or I will study harder next time lah. It becomes like a drug. Because you crave the social aspect to try to get you away from the problem while never actually facing up to the problem.
I agree.
So this was my biggest issue. So everyone that I turned to, every social connection that I turned to, right, was a way for me to escape. So you will see me being a social butterfly, jumping from group to group, right, participating in all kinds of activities, right, because that was how I found relief and also to sort of like get away from a problem that I felt was too big for me.
Was there a longer term like consequence of that?
There was, and eventually what happened was that like it accumulated to that point where I mentioned earlier, where I had that almost mental breakdown with my friend. But everything came to a head, right, when my grandfather passed away, or rather when he got sick when I was in uni. Grades were shit. Escapism was not buying me any more time, and stuff like that, right? And eventually I had to own up to the very tough decision that maybe I should have dropped out earlier. And that was where I related to what you mentioned about the whole switching of your own identity, about not pegging so much value to all these kind of things. Because my epiphany moment was like, hey shit, 4 grandparents become 3 and I still achieve nothing, right? I shouldn't be trapping myself in this cycle.
The key word there was epiphany. Like exactly an epiphany.
It was an epiphany for me. And then this was the first time in my life where I properly owned up to my parents and my friends and my counselor in school, right? That like, hey, I'm not doing well and I think I need to drop out. Not because of not only because of the academic poor academics, but because like for multiple years I've been very disenchanted by things, and that's why I'm a uni dropout.
Yeah. I think going on, at least from what I see, friends is definitely one common factor of like how people cope. And we actually did a poll on Overthink channel. So I asked people where do they receive the most emotional support when they're schooling, and like 86% says friends, 21% says family, and here's where I think is like the concerning part. Only 6% says teachers, and only 5% says school counselors.
Is there no one? Is there a no one?
No, never. I never put the session. Yours is never.
I would say mine would be no one, because I that was not quite what I was. I was very my energy was directed very wrongly.
Yeah, yours is just like you ignore the problem and you try to escape it from.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. I mean that's another coping mechanism lah. But for the people who went to these different avenues in schools, right? Very obvious, and they even like in school they'll tell you like, oh, there's a school counselor there. But like as Kevin said, like there's almost a stigma to go into the school counselor.
It is, and so that's why people either suppress the issues or they numb it. And sometimes it's very long, and sometimes when I go in and I take a risk to be vulnerable, I mean for some context I do programs in schools around mental health. So when I go in, I'll be vulnerable with them. I remember one student, this was one of the occasions where I really remember. I went to school and I did it after the program. The student tore a piece of paper, wrote something on it and passed it to me. He said on the paper, he wrote like, "Thank you, Cher, because of you, months of suppressed emotions were finally let out." And this is the thing, he said, I finally know that there are people that love and support me, my teachers and my friends.
Wow.
Which means previously, right, she was just suppressing it.
Just didn't know how to solve it.
And the fact that they can know that, okay, these are people that seek support, I'm really grateful for that. Like you might want to diversify your options, right? But the fact is that most people don't even get to that stage.
Most people don't even think.
Problem.
The school counselor is almost, at least from my experience, the school counselor is there, right? But almost not there.
Correct.
It's as good as not there. It's not even an option.
It feels
for most
like
people.
a bureaucratic implementation that someone higher up one day said.
Yeah.
And then students were never properly actively encouraged to capitalize on it.
And I think it made it worse. Okay, so I was from Hwa Chong, and I mean those people we were all in boys' school, in secondary school. I realized that. So I think it's worse. Because like especially as a sportsman, right? There's this like thing
100%.
where like you have to be strong, you have to be quote unquote manly.
It's the very popular kid mentality.
Then if you go to like a counselor, everyone knew you went to a counselor. Everyone within that day will know, and then people will be like, "Oh my god, the water polo guy went to a counselor," or "Oh my god, the frisbee captain went to the counselor." There's like almost a stigma to it. I won't say almost. I think there is a stigma to it.
It's media as well, because there's this lone wolf mentality that we buy into, right? The hero is always the lone wolf, always cool by himself. But resilience is almost never just about yourself. It's almost never, because when we think resilient, right, we just think, oh, strong, right? That's our natural bias towards resilience when we talk about it. But another element of it is actually in social support and in being vulnerable. But that narrative is just not pushed out in schools.
When I saw the poll results, which were 6% teachers and 5% school counselors, my first thought was, is there a problem with the society, the culture, or is it a problem with the system? What are you guys' thoughts?
Culture.
So you don't think it's a school system thing?
I think it's twofold.
Maybe, I mean, it's always kind of interlinked. But if I were to kind of bet on my life on one, I would say culture lah.
Okay. Same. If it comes down to it and you force me to pick one, I would say culture.
So culture in the sense of like stigmatization of mental health in society in large.
That's just one of the aspects of it, because one of the things that contributed, like Kevin mentioned, was pop culture. Right? There are so many things that within culture that shape the way kids think about how they should be. Right. Pop culture being one. Secondly, being pressures from each other. It can come from all kinds of different ways. Like for example, I feel that strength or the high ideal, right, is very easy to identify, but weakness is very difficult to diagnose. And people will always just like blanket statement that like weakness, right, as a stigma in that sense, when actually it could be a diagnosis for something else. It could be a condition. It could be a non-permanent condition. But the moment in pop culture especially, and in our cultural identity, right, if weakness is shown, it's a damning thing, when actually it's not the case. It could be a cry for help, but cries for help just appear as weakness.
I agree. And I do agree that it's a little bit of the culture. I think like especially during our time, mental health wasn't something that we could talk about on the podcast.
Especially during our time. Now it's changing a bit. Out of necessity. Someone has to literally pass away. In such a tragic fashion, right, for this to happen, which is why my heart really broke when I read about it. Because why do we have to wait until this? Because it's already an issue that we've been facing for so long.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like a lot of people take it for granted that we are talking about mental health so openly, right? Because like most people are doing it these days, and I think it's a good thing. But in the past, if you ask me about depression or you ask me about anxiety, first of all, I'll say I don't know anything because I truly didn't. Second of all, I'll be like, why is sad? Just life or it's a typical sports mentality also. It's like depends on how you think about it.
Yeah.
It's something, there's this like thing where you think that you can control these things sometimes when really sometimes you cannot.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a bit of a culture to it.
Yeah.
But for the sake of this like argument, like why don't we take, I know it's very difficult to take the society out of it, but why don't we take it out of it for a little bit and think about how the school can help make a better environment for the students with regards to mental health.
I think
COVID.
Do not say that.
I think it definitely has to start with school leadership.
Okay.
I strongly believe everything rises and falls on leadership. And if the leadership takes the onus and say, you know what, like let's take the risk when it comes to these things. Let's be more vulnerable in certain areas instead of saying, okay, let's not talk about suicide because it's taboo. If they do that, and if, for example, a principal can go up and say, you know what, like resilience is not just about getting good grades, not just about pushing through everything. Sometimes it's about taking a rest, being open and vulnerable, and share about their own mental health, right? I think that will make a huge cultural shift. And then slowly that measures can go down and people are willing to kind of seek support because now it's no longer stigmatized. Like you're talking about microculture, right? Back when you were in school, your teachers created that culture.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, that's what I have in mind. I want to hear your thoughts as well.
Same. I actually totally agree about the thing about coming from leadership. And I think in schools as educators, right, it's very unspoken, but you are the very unspoken police/leader/government in schools. So much so that even the top dog, the student that feels they're the top dog, right, still somehow understand that there is a difference between them students and the teachers. And in order for these teachers to behave in a way that is supportive of the students, right, it has to come from HODs that come from principal that come from ministry. And this is where the whole shift in narrative these days, I think is like what you mentioned. It's very healthy. Like it has reached a point whereby even on social media, right, you can tell that these people are still teens and students. The fact that mental health, right, can even come out as jokes sometimes on TikTok, right, is a good sign that they are comfortable enough to become even jokes. If we throw back to our time, right? I think mental health was not even something that people were comfortable to even mention in a casual sentence.
It's crazy because last time I remember if you talk about like suicide even. I know trigger warning.
We just don't want to talk about it because we don't have information.
Exactly.
Like, it's not within our awareness.
And it's not even, we don't even like, I guess, I guess not just don't understand, but like straight up don't get why people will want to commit suicide. It's like, why would you want to commit suicide? What's the point?
No, then I think the schools took a very utilitarian approach and very quantitative approach to things, right? So like sometimes they will look at what are the holes that we need to fill for the education system without understanding that there are a lot of invisible issues. This becomes like the whole survivorship bias situation where you're talking about the World War II planes coming back and then they want to patch up the places with bullet holes when actually they should instead patch up the places without the holes because planes that get hit there don't survive. So students in that sense were often like diagnosed with like, oh, you know, we need to cover these academic parts, we need to cover these parts so that the school becomes better, when actually the parts that were more crucial were invisible, and if those parts get damaged, the students don't make it.
I do agree. And I think in the Overthink chat, a lot of people were chatting over yesterday, basically about their own experiences with like the school system, the school counselors, different teachers. Some people have really, really bad experiences. And just from that, you can tell that like, I think teachers will have to go through some sort of training for mental health. I think they do right now.
And a small disclaimer as well. I think it's not easy for them as well.
Exactly,
because they deal with so many things in school.
So many things.
As a teacher, I did not sign up to do admin. Then I signed up to be a therapist. I signed up to teach. But the thing is, things are changing now. And then, especially with the incident, right? Schools are being bombarded with mental wellness materials. And there's a CCE program that's supposed to be rolled out by 2022 on mental health. So there is a shift and focus in that from directive top-down wise, but it takes time for teachers to understand, for them to learn and everything. So I feel it's a bit of a too fast, too soon now.
I
feel.
But also I feel
at the same
it's
time,
a little bit of too little, too late.
I mean, I think that like someone brought this up actually. They were like, but I would like caution against like blaming the teachers.
I don't blame teachers. Okay, let's just put it out there that we're not here to blame any educator.
Sure.
Of course.
But if we want to talk about system changes, right, it's very, very important that we target the people who execute the system.
But okay, I'm going to play the devil's advocate. Okay, but as a teacher, I mean, we have advocated for a lot of change in schools. First of all, sex education has to be better, terrible sex education. Second of all, we want to talk about mental health. On top of that, we want to, inculcate good values in our students, everything. And on top of that, they still have to get good grades.
Yeah.
So, as a teacher, is that realistic for you to hit all of these? I can understand as a teacher when I hear this, I'll be like, hey, fuck.
Given the current curriculum and the current educational system, I would say it's very unrealistic. You see, you think about it, right? When we talk about standardized education in Singapore, let's not talk about other places in the world, talk about Singapore, right? We have a very simple, 6-4-3/2.
What's that?
Number of years that you have to be in certain types of school.
6,
Yeah,
4,
yeah.
3. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's almost fixed. It's almost everyone's mindset. Like, okay, this is like how it's gonna be. Then people will joke about being 10 years boys' school because primary school, secondary school, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing, you see, and it's because society also values efficiency, right? It rewards the students who get out of this system earlier, be it through through train programs or any accelerator programs or that kind of thing, right? Which values the shortening of school time. When actually it could value a lot more young people if certain specialized schools or even the norm becomes an even longer time so that they can have a more holistic approach towards education.
So you suggest that maybe we can do
Curriculum has to change.
longer.
This is my same argument with NS. If you want NS to improve mental health, you want NS to have all these educating commanders to be able, then you increase NS length.
Yeah.
Why is there that much of a binary to that decision?
It's not really a binary, but it's like the most immediate solution until something else better comes out. Okay. It's the same as the whole whether we should split vaccinated versus not vaccinated. Clearly, a policy does not exist. We need to do one to fix the immediate problem.
To be fair, they did over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The narrative has been character. So we know that 21st century skills is talked about nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And they want reduced mid-year exams, PSL, they abolish and all that kind of stuff. So technically, they are trying to reduce curriculum time to focus more on character. So they are doing that. It's just that maybe at a cultural level, parents don't buy it. They still send them to tuition.
Yeah.
They still, no mid-year, I'll go tuition exams. You know what I mean? So it's hard. Even if, that's a different topic altogether about society and families. But I think within the school, definitely having time out to do more things helps. I think you mentioned about how you discovered outdoors.
Yeah.
Was it during? And that was game changer
That was
for
during
you.
JC. Yeah, it was a game changing, and I think it was also partially what helped me to grow as a person. But that was post school.
Yeah.
During school, it was really like an escape mechanism. Of course, because I was still learning the ropes and everything, and it became very holistic in that sense because it was like a grounding thing for me.
Yeah.
When things got difficult, that was how I sort of I fixed my identity as that kind of person. So that it didn't shake me when the adversity came from academics. And it was a very trying time because you must understand because of the way that I'm being an escapist, right? Even during these times where I use the outdoors to escape, right? My friends will occasionally check out on me, not by their fault. They normally would do, right? How's your what common test, how's your whatever, right? And then I'll give I'll deflect or I'll try to move it away from that. But it was still very lucky because that was basically what I could deflect to. And it helped me preserve my sanity in that sense because it deflected me back to something that I was invested and actually good in.
Okay. And not every student finds that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not everyone.
If they can find that, I'm so grateful for them. If they can fundamentally understand, right? The education is not confined to a piece of paper and four walls. Once they understand that it's only limited by your imagination, your curiosity for learning, right? Defining your own success. The moment they realize the essence of it, right?
Yeah.
Education is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's so sad that it's corrupted because education is core. It's just
It's just
me
learning.
passionate.
Yeah, exactly.
This education, I listen to you all as a form of education because it just gets me passionate.
Yeah.
But they drag their feet to school.
Yeah.
I think,
agree.
but that's the thing. I think as we were talking about this also, because someone in the chat was actually having their prelims tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we say go and study for prelims. And then they asked for a little bit of mental health advice, and we were saying that if all the A-level results episodes that we have released, we have said this before also. We can sit here and say education is not all about a piece of paper and not all about the letter or
In
the
that
grades.
moment and stuff.
In that moment, damn difficult for you to hear.
It is. It's
It's
true.
like if you tell anxious me,
It is
this kind of thing don't need worry on.
Yeah.
I'll be like, go home lah.
If tomorrow I tell you the world is not round and that's all you've known.
Yeah, it's very difficult to it's very difficult to understand that. I think that comes with hindsight and that comes
Absolutely.
with age and experience.
No, and I resonated with what you mentioned about education being passionate, being something that you are that sparks your curiosity. Because after having left university, right? After I dropped out and everything, and then I started working, and then basically here I am now, right? I told myself suddenly, I felt like my headspace was so open to the fact that like, hey, next time I want to go back to uni, I want to go back because I want to learn, not because I want to go there and get a diploma.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then I think to myself, holy shit, why was I not thinking like that, right? When let's say after A levels, why was I not thinking like that?
I agree.
Why was I in this like low key rat race?
It took me a while also. I think it took me to like uni year 3 or year 2. Then I remember I used to be like, my goal used to be like, get first class honors, etc. Right? Now my goal straight up, the only one goal is to remain sane when I leave uni. Is to leave uni reinvigorated to enter the workforce and not feel like I'm about to die.
Yeah.
So that like kind of I guess motivated a lot of my choices in uni.
How did these students come to that conclusion?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Thing,
how can they, especially when you're 17 or 16, you know?
I think this
how
one,
can they help?
it's twofold. Based on what I think will be able to solve this solution. First will be culturally and as adults, whoever is in this person's life, right, they need to steer them in the right direction. Because if the direction is not steered and these people's identities are not fixed yet because of their growth, right, then it's very difficult for them to form their own conclusion on their own. Secondly, right, building upon that point, students need to be reach a point whereby their understanding of education, right, is based in learning and not grades.
In the results,
based on excellence and not on academic success. Because these two are very different things. Like I was very enlightened by this movie called The Three Idiots.
Yes.
Bollywood. I believe most people would love this, and very funnily
everyone
enough,
can relate.
Very funny enough, everyone loves it for a very ironic reason because they relate to the bad part.
The pain is there.
Yeah, and they always wish that they were that hero that finished it, but most of the time they are watching it in hindsight.
Yes.
Right? When you talk about education, it has to be a place that facilitates learning. It cannot be a place that facilitates you trying to finish and get a good grade. Because the grading system is important in a test, right? It dilutes the purpose of education. So a lot of students spend 6, 4, 3, which is a good 12, 13 years of their life thinking that grades are the most important without understanding why they're even in school in the first place.
Yeah, for sure.
Like they learn the definition of schools in schools, but they don't, it's so different from what they actually expect. And that's where it becomes damn important. Adults have to steer them in that direction instead of trying to push them for education, right? You can even, organize something where you get them to understand what school is for. Like a lot of students go through education without understanding what school is for. And if you go to an institute of learning and there's no learning, then what's the point?
Yeah, I think all these are also I know to a lot of people this sounds very like ideal and fluffy because it sounds very abstract. And I think it's very important, but maybe a less abstract way of doing this might be showing, especially people who come from very, very good schools. We have been told from young that if we don't do well in this thing, that's the end. We don't see a future beyond A levels if you don't do well. If you do well, it goes according to plan. Everyone knows. You just go to uni, you come out, you get $5,000 pay. But that's the plan that the parents plan to you. But it's almost as if the secondary plan doesn't exist. And I think as like teachers or as parents, it might be a good idea to show that like there is a secondary plan.
It is an extremely good idea. See, the thing is that when they're boxed in like well, like, you know, the 井底之蛙 is right. Which Chinese means your frog stuck in a well. When their perspective is not open, right, it is near impossible to get them to recover or even for their mental health to get better. Because ultimately, we talk about mental health, we talk about mind, right? And the mind is shaped by our perceptions. So when you can open up the perspectives, like both of you mentioned, it will definitely help them. The good thing is that I see students nowadays, because of social media, because of listening, like they are starting to understand. They actually talk to me and they're more woke in the sense that they actually teach me certain things when I go and teach because I know that they think different compared to the past.
That's great.
Which is very encouraging.
Because
they tell me that people say interest, they tell me actually I'm not too concerned about it. So I'm very heartened when I see that.
I mean, for me personally, the reason why I didn't really stress too much about grades until uni, right, was because I know my dad went to IT. My dad went to IT and he became a poly. He went to poly after that, and now he's a very successful man. Thus, we have this room. So, like just knowing that, right, makes me feel better. And he always tells me like, no matter you have to do your best, but no matter what happened, right, you're already doing way better than I did at your age. And that really made me feel a lot better because I'm like shit, even if I fail, right, like this is a very, very possible route. You will not die. You won't die on the street. Which is for some reason, most people think that because like parents or teachers will tell you that you will die on the street, which you won't. So I think maybe a good emphasis on these other things might be better. And I think on social media there have been more people popping up saying that I got 150 for PSL, look where I am
so
now.
it helps I say.
It does help it does help. But other than that, with regards to I guess more systemic or structural change in how counselling is done or that, what are some suggestions that you guys have?
I wish I could give an educated opinion on that, but unless I'm inside the system, it's a little bit difficult.
Okay, just from what you know as a student.
As a student,
I mean, it might have changed for now. Do let us know in the comments down below if you are personally a teacher, counsellor in school, or you're in schools now. Let us know whether the situation has changed, but at least from our experience with counsellors in school, or rather not even going to counsellor, but having that image of a counsellor. What do you think can be changed?
Firstly, before we go into that, have any of y'all been to a school counsellor before?
I have not.
Never.
I have.
At
I
JC level?
Yeah, I went at JC level, but the funny thing is that only after JC was over, then I went. So it was actually in J2 period. Okay, so when that mental block happened, right, I basically couldn't think already. So I remember I had one close friend who actually went through his own struggle because his dad had issues. So during the A-level period, now he's studying medicine, I think he's going to be a doctor, but during that period, it was very difficult for him. I couldn't understand his struggle. I really couldn't understand it. In fact, I subconsciously judged him because he wasn't coming to school.
Oh shit.
Wasn't coming to school, but I subconsciously think he just doesn't want to do that.
Then
only when I realized his backstory, right, there's a whole bunch of shit. That's why he's not coming to school. You know? And then so when that happened to me, he was the first one to empathize. He said that, Kevin, it's okay, go and see the counselor, you need it. So I went because of him. And I remember her name, I can't tell her name, but she was a short lady with BB glasses, short hair. It was very, very pleasant. I was very fortunate. She's a very pleasant person. And she just talked to me. I just felt calm. She did something called Bowen therapy, which involves massaging to increase the blood flow. So she massaged my head, everything. Yeah, and it felt good. So I think, honestly, I genuinely believe that talking to her, chatting with her during that period did help. And even after my ACE, I went back for a couple of sessions.
So you had a good experience.
I had a good experience. But I'm well aware that from research, right? Most people do not.
That's what I was thinking. Because even, overthink chat, I know most of the time people who share it probably will have tough experiences, but there are at least one or two people who said that they didn't have a great experience with school counsellors. I haven't gone to a school counsellor before.
I have in NTU.
Oh wow, okay.
So prior to my dropout, I had to speak to the counsellor.
How was that?
Actually that was a very enlightening experience because I felt like this was the first time in my life where I went into a room with someone and then I'm super guarded. I don't want to tell this person anything. I'm afraid that this person will judge me. I'm afraid that I tell the truth what will happen. I'm afraid that this person thinks the whole list of NTU students why must you be the one that come in here? That kind of situation. So I went in with a lot of apprehension. Right, but this person was, I think he detected my apprehension. So what he did was he was very logical and straightforward with what he wanted to tell me. So he would just straight away go through about student processes and all that kind of thing. You understand that you're a uni student, all that kind of thing. And you must understand that when I went into university, even to the point where I dropped out, right, my mindset was still a very secondary school JC kind of education. I feel that if you go to poly, you will have an understanding of, or you have certain control over your life. When you come out from a secondary school JC mindset, right, it feels like the school controls your life. The school tells you what to do. So even if it comes to the point whereby you need to tell yourself what to do, you don't know how to do that. Right. So when I was with this counselor, I didn't know how to even manage myself. So this counselor actually helped me to sort of open up to my thoughts and feelings about how things were, right? And I was even more apprehensive, and I kind of clamped out a little when they asked me to invite my parents because I felt like, wow, shit, that would be like what if my parents come in here and then it becomes two people attack me? I felt very defensive. But after me talking to this person a little bit more, it helped me understand that okay, I need to make adult decisions here. I need to be able to make adult decisions not for anyone but for myself.
Did he build your self-efficacy in a way?
I don't think so because I don't think so in that sense, but because of the way he managed me, which was quite gently I would say. As a result of that, it allowed me to explore in my own way because firstly I'm an escapist. Secondly, it's a very isolating thing to do to yourself when you're an escapist, right? Because when you're face to face with the problem, when the problem is still distance, you can still escape, right? When it's face to face, right, it's very difficult for you. It's basically you hide in a corner and then you hope it goes away. But that's a very isolating experience. So you have to figure it out for yourself. So when I hide in my personal corner and I tried to figure out myself, I told myself, okay, no, I cannot do this anymore because I know I'm hurting myself. Right? It was the hardest step for me to do, but I slowly but surely and opened up to the counselor, and that actually helped me to even bring my dad down to the counseling session with me. And then we had that whole conversation where I admitted that okay, I'm really disenfranchised by this. I can't do this. And that sentence was so liberating now that I look back. But like back then, right, it was probably one of the hardest things to have said. That like I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then like for a small part of me, I guess the child in me was kind of expecting I was low key wishing in my head that my dad would tell me it's okay that you can't.
Yeah.
Because like I come from a line of my dad is quite successful in his own right.
Yeah.
He graduated second upper from NTU and we were all quite happy that I was going through basically the same route as him. I was in NTU. So but it was very difficult to admit.
Yeah.
And also because within my extended family, with my parents' generation, right? My parents were the most successful siblings. Yeah, as a result of their education, as a result of doing a lot of things right. So I didn't want to also be the person that did the wrong thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it became super hard. But like I have to say that this whole counseling thing, right? If for nothing else, right? For people who may be curious about it or whatever, who maybe find themselves in a difficult place, right? If for nothing else,
give it a shot.
It actually helps you to sort of open up another alternative perspective for yourself.
Yeah.
Even if this person may not necessarily help you, you at least know that, hey, there is still something else out there.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most important point that I took away from the counselor, the fact that there was still something else. Because when you are stuck in a bad situation and that's all you know,
it's all
right?
tunnel vision, right?
You think that there's nothing else.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think school counselors, I think for the most part, I would like to believe they are very well trained and they can handle things very, really well.
Technically, you don't need a degree to be a school counselor.
Yeah.
The criteria is a little bit less compared to a psychologist, which is fair because like psychologists you have to take a master's and everything.
Yes.
But then again, if you put the criteria too high, then we have no counselors also.
Yeah.
There are so many schools already. So I think it's a balance that we have to take. But I think for anything people listening, like John mentioned, is worth a shot. What's the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah.
And I think you all did an episode on therapy as well. How seeing a therapy really is just getting a different perspective.
Yes. I mean, it's just getting I guess letting someone in.
Friend, yeah.
It's like almost they don't really give you solutions per se. They just guide you to your own solution. If that's a way of talking about it, but I think you guys want to hear more about that, you can hear our mental health journeys episode.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how to get students to understand that, other than I guess do more school talks and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of, is there any system change that we can do to school counseling that allows them to feel more safe going forward?
I'm having a little bit of an epiphany moment here right now because I figured actually I think this is quite a common pain point for students in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
I think when students experience trouble, right, the very Asian mentality that they experience from their friends at home, right, is that people try to fix them.
Yes.
And I think one way to encourage students is to assure them that the counselor is not there to fix them. Because a lot of times that I realized that was where a lot of my apprehension came from. I didn't want someone to tell me again that like actually if you work harder you can do that, or like why you never do it, you know. And I was very afraid that someone would tell me to say that because I was half expecting my parents and my counselor to tell me those kind of things.
Yes.
And that's not what I want to hear. Because if you tell me most of the thing, that thing again, it's very frustrating. It's I already know.
Yeah, I don't have to tell me
I
again,
don't need you to fix me again. And it stems from a little bit of trauma from me because my mom is a fixer. She likes to fix people. She likes to fix things. So like it became the point whereby I find myself very uncomfortable sharing things with my mom because I don't want her to fix my problems. So this I think is a very subconscious issue that people exist in Asian society. When people come to you with your problems, right, you always try to either one-up them or tell them how you did it.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And then maintain the moral high ground by showing how you overcame it, which works for some things, but not for
the most part,
when people are actually crying out for help.
Yeah.
And I think
they want
that
you
is
to
the
fix
best way.
things. Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to encourage students to go for counselling. Tell them the counsellor is not there to fix them.
Yeah. I also think that another important point that the reason why most people don't go to school counselors though is because I think they are afraid of them telling parents. I don't know the protocol for it. I think they do have to tell the parents if it's bad enough.
I think so.
I think that's the protocol. I'm not too sure whether
I
they should.
think so, but unfortunately, right, like here's the thing, like some parents, right, they're not open to their kids doing that.
Exactly.
To them, it's a weakness. And they say, why you go and tell your teacher like that?
Yeah.
Right? And so I think parents is another level already because I see parents as part of the school system. Okay. That's why there's PSG, parent support group, there's parent engagement, because you can do whatever you want in school. But the moment you go back home, the thought process is conditioned by the parents.
It's true.
Yeah. And I mean that's the issue because like most parents, as you said, won't be very open to it. And sometimes the parents might even be the problem.
Yeah.
They might even go like, my parents are the one that are stressing me out.
Yeah.
I am very, very stressed right now. And if you if the school counselor tells the parents that, that's kind of counterproductive.
I'm sure there are ways, but I know it's difficult.
It's tough. So I think that's why most people are not very open to going to
Possibly.
teachers or school counselors also.
Most children, I would say.
Yeah, most children.
Yeah.
Even now, like, if I don't know, okay, now maybe less so for me, but especially when you're 16 or whatever, when your parents are, I guess, the larger authority, the bigger authority in your life,
So you
right?
need to sign consent from them, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Like, it's tough. I can understand why they are scared of it. So do you think that we should remove that?
Remove what?
Don't tell
Counselling.
parents.
Oh.
No, not counselling lah.
Remove parents?
Don't, to be honest, okay, to be fair, don't tell parents. There might be a clause somewhere. I'm not familiar with. I haven't asked lah.
Yeah.
But there might be a clause somewhere that says it's really very bad. They don't need to tell their parents. That they can just get counselling in secret. But I don't know. I'm just postulating lah. It could not be the case lah. But I feel like if the kid really needs help and he's struggling to the point where he doesn't want to go because of the parents, but he really needs help, maybe the school can make an exception and say, "No, you go. We don't tell our parents."
Yeah.
But I cannot make that claim because I don't know lah.
Same. I don't know lah. But I feel that like this is where it gets a little bit grey.
Yes.
Right? Where do you involve a parent? Where do you involve a kid's parents? I think that there should be some implementation put in place where anonymous / without notifying anyone / parents kind of counselling can happen, right? And these kind of things I would say has to be handled very delicately because after all, if you do things in quote unquote behind the parents' back, right? There are a lot of implications that may happen either at the school level or in the student's life.
Yeah, it's because they're still a minor. What do you think in the comments? I guess they can put it down. I'm curious to know people's thoughts about this.
Yeah, because personally, I study psychology. So like I can understand why they would tell the parents or they would tell authorities. Because there are certain things that we are just straight up not trained to do. Yeah. Or straight up not trained to handle. Especially if you're a school counselor, you're not like a master in psychiatry or a master in psychology or anything. You're just a school counselor. There's probably a diploma or whatever. Like there are certain things that I don't feel comfortable handling. And then you just have to hand it off to someone. And most of the time it's the parents or if not it's professionals.
Yeah.
So I can understand why they will want to hand it off. I just don't know whether that's the best.
But funnily enough, maybe something that schools can try to do, or rather even at the policy level, people can try to do. Maybe there needs to be counselling at the parent level.
Oh, like family therapy?
Oh, they try.
There is family therapy. It's such a thing. Like it's basically like the family will be part of your therapy. Some people take it very well. Yeah. And of course, if your family is part of the reason why you are going to therapy, maybe it won't be very good. It depends on there is that option definitely, but it's I think less common lah. Yeah. Tough. I don't know. What do you guys think? Personally, I would say if the person say don't tell my parents, I won't tell the parents lah. If I were the counselor lah. Unless like
suicidal.
They are obliged by law to.
Are they obliged by law to tell the parents?
If they are suicidal.
By parents, to parents. Or authorities can.
We're not too sure. I mean, someone can fact check us on this, but I'm pretty sure that when it comes to, I mean, in the eyes of Singapore law, what is held most sacred, which is the life, right? So I think anything will be thrown out the window when that happens.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah, Fambium says if they don't tell the parents and something happens, the school could be sued. Yeah, that's another issue. Yeah, I think it's tough, man, but it does suck. Yeah, that's this whole thing.
Which is why I say culture is still strategy for lunch. Because if culture can shift and fundamentally look at our journeys, right? At least for me, like the recovery was holistic. It was not just one factor, medication, not just parents. It was everything together. And I had mentors as well that guided me in business and showed me a different path to success and changed my paradigm about life. So it's the whole culture that's holistically come together, right? It will help. Somehow it will just change the way things are perceived and people get better, as a whole.
Yeah, so
this is where I feel that like cases like ours in that sense where you had a holistic approach to recovery, right? Where I had an epiphany that guided me in with a few lucky breaks that got me to where I am, right? This is still the rarity. That's the thing. And like it's very unfortunate that like I wish a support system more robust that basically applies to the majority if they experience something like us and then they for a fact that they can take comfort in the fact that this will be the approach that they receive, right? Does not exist yet. And this is unfortunate.
The research is still very green. Like if we go into, for example, research into recovery models. I was talking to someone that does a PhD in mental health research, recovery in Asian context. You're saying that we're kind of moving away from the medical model. Medical model is just we don't have the symptoms yet recovered.
Yeah.
So the challenge with that when people contention against psychiatry or even IMH is that I'm just dishing out medication. This is your symptoms. I'm going to give you this, a cocktail of drugs. You're going to try it until you get better.
Yes.
Right, and then that negates the whole idea of a person-oriented recovery model. Where it's very based on the person's wants and desires, and how do you then match it at different level? How the psychosocial support actually comes in. And in the West, there are models where even homestays, people can just go in and stay and get recovery and get help. I can't remember the exact name for it. I think Singapore has CMA Care Centre the closest to that.
Okay.
So there are places like that. Even some social enterprises do provide support outside. Okay, so here's the thing. If you go to IMH, right, and then you seek help, for example, there's no place in between. When you go home, there's no place in between. So that where is the in between, right, is where some social enterprises come in and say, I'm going to provide you that community support. I'm going to provide that psychosocial support. Right? SCMH does that, raising money for them. So Singapore Association for Mental Health also tries to do that. So that's where that gap can come in sometimes.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, we are coming to the end of the IMO episode. Are there any final thoughts with you guys, John?
Wow. Let me process this a little bit more.
Okay, where do we go, Kevin?
Oh, I just want to say it's if you're anyone watching this, right, that's really struggling with your mental health, or even if you're a student, just know that, like, looking back, right, even in my own life, like, the greatest reward for the greatest reward for striving is not what I get from it. It's who I became through it. And if you can remember, you look back all the medals, inverted commas, that I gained, right? It's all, at that point, it meant a lot. But right now, it's just collecting dust. Nobody cares, right? What matters the most is the memories I forged, as in the character that I built. And there's one core message I always share with students. I really hope they can understand that. At the end of the day, who you become, when you die, people will not remember what you had. They remember what you gave. And I just hope people can remember that.
Yeah. John?
I would say that I want to say something very cliche, which is like, if you're in trouble, please seek professional help. And I think every time we talk about an episode which has someone who potentially might be in trouble kind of situation, we always tell them, say, we'll leave links in the description box, and then we'll tell them to go and seek professional help. Almost to the point whereby it sounds like we're a broken record and being naggy. Right?
Yes.
But I do want to say that there is a lot of merit in that. And like bear with us, if for nothing else, like I mentioned earlier, to offer yourself another perspective to whatever you're struggling with. Don't view it as something that will fix you. Don't view it as something that will stigmatize you. Don't view it as anything else other than trying something new. It's like, for example, you never go skateboarding before, right? Just go skateboarding. Take that similar approach to seeking professional help for any mental difficulty that you think you may be facing. So the moment the thought pops into your head, I'm glad that now things are becoming a little bit more normalized. The moment the thought pops in your head, they're like, hey, maybe I need professional help, right? Just try it as if you are going for a baking class that you've never done. If you've never done baking before, go for a baking class. You never done skating before, go for a skating class. You never done swimming before, go for a swimming class. Something as normalized and destigmatized as that.
Yes.
And just to offer a perspective. And if nothing else, go with the intention that, like, oh, if I don't like it, I don't like it. And I think that will open up your perspective a lot more towards counseling and other mental health aids. And this will help you move out from your situation, either through yourself or through this professional.
Yeah.
Don't mind if I share something before I
Sure.
Alistair,
Of course.
that I think I mentioned, if let's say you want more narratives or perspectives, right? It's okay if I just share them in my podcast.
Of course.
Rebound with Resilience, right? You can check it out on YouTube, also on Spotify, or even on Instagram. I think I interview people almost entirely with mental health conditions, or have gone through their own journey. I think hearing from them, people who have attempted suicide before and how they sought help, I think it provides some relatability and comfort, and hopefully that also inspires you to say that there are ways that you can get out of it. And that's why I appreciate both of you so much. And I'm very glad to come here. Honestly, because you provide a safe space, number one, for people that have civil discussions, right? And number two, I can sense your care for your audience and your listeners, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
I mean, it's the least you can do.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I mean, the two of them talked a lot about, like, the people who are struggling right now, and I think we have said enough about that. I'll talk to the teachers. I think it's tough. I'm not envious in your position because you have to do admin work, which I already hate. And then on top of that, you have to talk about mental health, and on top of your actual job, which is teaching and making sure these people have, like, as bright of a future as they can get. It's tough and I can understand why it might be very frustrating if everyone comes in and say, like, oh, the responsibility lies on the teacher, because if, like, all they can think of is, like, shit, I have all the responsibilities, like, it has to stop somehow. I think as much as I do think that you have a part to play, but maybe don't think so much of like how you can solve the issue, because I don't think the buck stops at you. I don't think you can solve the issue in the first place. I think as teachers, really what needs to happen is you just need to be a listening ear. You just need to not be dismissive.
Yeah.
And is as a student who was once, let's say there's this period of time where I struggled with chemistry, and by struggle it's just B, but in Hwa Chong, B means struggle. So I got B in chemistry, and then I remember I went to the teacher was like, why you get B? I fucking kid you not, okay? She really told me why you got B. And I said, I don't know, I really worked very hard. I don't know what's going on. I did all I could already. Then she's like, okay, never mind, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, we go on from here. I'm here for you. And that was the first time the teacher actually said that they understood and they were here for me. And that meant so much to me, because as much as I thought it's fucking ridiculous that B was considered struggling.
B is bad.
B is bad. Fucking ridiculous. But at the same time, it felt very, very nice to be listened to. She didn't offer me solutions.
Yeah.
She didn't say like, hey, go and do this assessment book, blah, 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 or you're stressed now, here, go and take some medicine, go and exercise more. She didn't say any of this. She just said, I'm here for you. She held that space for me. Actually, and that's all you need to do.
Yeah, and I think that's important, you see, because a lot of times I feel that when it comes to this kind of mental health recovery, it has to come from the individual. A lot of times, the recovery has to begin with the individual.
That's the whole idea of the person-oriented model.
Correct.
The individual has to come into play as well.
Yeah. So like I think as friends, potentially, because like a lot of people commented that in the poll that friends are their biggest support system, and I feel that for our viewers especially, a large majority would fall into the friends category.
Yes.
Right. Do not attempt to fix them.
Yeah.
You must, like what the both of them has mentioned, hold that space for them and help them try to find their footing on their own, because a lot of times this footing cannot be found by someone else. Yeah. They need to be able to discover it on their own, and the only way to discover it is if you're able to support them in a way that does not make them feel like they're in danger.
Yeah. Holding space is like, I see it as a bubble. It's like, you just imagine there's a bubble between you and a person when you're chatting. If you hold the space well, that bubble thickens and it comforts and empowers.
Yeah.
But if you dismiss or you judge, the bubble breaks. And the person goes away feeling very judged, dismissed, and maybe he will not open up to anyone ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
It's very important. And also never make one person your entire world. Because if you're a friend providing support, right, it's important not to make yourself the entire world. Because you can get caught up in that. Help them to build a support system and don't overpromise.
Yeah. I mean, to end off, Darryl's, I think, sums it up very well. Holistic treatment of mental illness requires tackling of biopsychosocial model. It's not just medication. Family support helps a lot. Therapy sessions help. Friends help. And I think we all just need to play.
This Twitch helps as well. Everybody is hopefully helping each other.
Yeah. I mean, with that, we come to the end of another very, very long IMO episode.
Yes.
Very heavy, but I hope you guys help.
It's an hour.
Oh, okay lah. Okay.
Thank you guys so much for watching. And of course, if you like Kevin and the stuff he has been doing, do support him. I think he's doing very great stuff on the ground, and also his podcast as well. So do go on and give him some support. Go and subscribe.
Everything in the description box. Please go check him out.
Do you enjoy yourself, Kevin?
For sure. It's a new experience. My first time on Twitch as well. It's very, very interesting.
We appreciate you guys. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Don't get COVID. See you guys next week.
Yeah, man.
Bye.
Bye.